What is up, Patriots? Welcome to O'Connor's Quick Strike. I'm John O'Connor. I hope everyone is having a great hump day. We are halfway to our weekend and I could use some rest and relaxation already. Oh, and make sure to check out the episode from yesterday on O'Connor's Right Stand. It was a doozy as I deep dived into Jasmine Crockett and all her disgusting scandals. So you should enjoy that. Well, if you thought the swamp was draining under Trump, think again. We've got 3 stories since Monday that prove the rot still runs deep, the grift never stops, and the fight is just getting started. So, grab your coffee, and let's get into it.
3.
Alright, breaking on Monday, and this is huge. We found out that Jack Smith and his FBI goons were tracking the phone records of 9 Republican members of Congress during the January 6th investigation. Not 1 or 2, 9. Senators Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, Ron Johnson, Marsha Blackburn, Tommy Tuberville, Bill Hagerty, Dan Sullivan, Cynthia Loomis, and Congressman Mike Kelly. Your elected representatives. People you voted for. And the FBI was tracking their phone calls. Now, here's what they got. Not the content of the calls, but who they called, when they called, where the call originated, and where it was received. Basically, building a map of their communications around January 6th. The calls were from January 4th through January 7th, right around the Capitol riot and the electoral certification vote. This came out in a declassified FBI document from September 2023. It's labeled Cast Assistance. That's the FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey team. They conducted what they called preliminary toll analysis on these lawmakers' phone records. Chuck Grassley, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, held a press conference Monday and he was pissed. He said, and I quote, "This document shows the Biden FBI spied on 8 of my Republican Senate colleagues during its Arctic Frost investigation into election conspiracy. Arctic Frost later became Jack Smith's electoral case against Trump. Biden FBI weaponization equals worse than Watergate." Worse than Watergate? Let that sink in. Now, technically, they've got these records through grand jury subpoenas, which is legal. But here's the problem. They're supposed to be predicate. They're supposed to be a reason. You can't just spy on members of Congress because you don't like them or because they voted the wrong way. And get this. Senator Bill Hagerty said Jack Smith and his team were trying to understand these senators' pattern of life. Pattern of life? That's surveillance state language. That's what you do to terrorists and foreign agents, not United States senators. Kash Patel, our FBI director now, found these documents and immediately briefed the affected senators. He posted on X Monday night, "We recently uncovered proof that phone records of U.S. lawmakers were seized for political purposes. That abuse of power ends now. Under my leadership, the FBI will deliver truth and accountability and never again be weaponized against the American people." And he's taking action. Word is people are getting fired over this. Patel designated Arctic Frost as a prohibited case because it violated FBI protocols. But here's what really gets me. Christopher Wray, the former FBI director, refused to tell Congress how many agents or informants were at the Capitol on January 6th. He stonewalled. Now we're finding out the FBI had 274 plainclothed armed agents there. And they were tracking Republican senator phone calls. This wasn't about investigating a riot. This was about building a political case against Trump and anyone who stood with him. They weren't looking for evidence of a crime. They were looking for anything they could use. And you know what could happen to these officials who did this? Criminal prosecution. Under 8 U.S. Code Section 1373, it's illegal for government officials to obstruct federal enforcement in certain ways. But more broadly, weaponizing law enforcement for political purposes is a federal crime. No sovereign immunity protects you when you violate someone's constitutional rights under color of law. The question is, will anyone actually go to jail for this? Or is it just going to be some firings and a slap on the wrist? Because let me tell you something. If Republicans had done this to Democrat senators, every network would be screaming fascism for a month straight. But because it happened to Republicans, the media is barely covering it. This is the deep state, folks. This is what they do when they think they can get away with it. Thank God for Kash Patel and Chuck Grassley for exposing it.
2.
Okay, story 2 is going to make your blood boil, but in a different way. This is about the grift, the con, the scam that is progressive politics. You remember David Hogg, right? Parkland shooting survivor, turned gun control activist, turned progressive hero, became a DNC vice chair for like 5 minutes. Well, he's been running a political action committee called Leaders We Deserve since 2023. And he made some big promises. He was going to raise $20 million to primary old, crusty Democratic incumbents and replace them with young, fresh progressives. He was going to revolutionize the Democratic Party from within. How's that working out? Oh, it's working out great for David Hogg and his consultant buddies. Here are the numbers, and I want you to pay attention because this is important. David Hogg's PAC has raised $15.3 million from donors. That's $15.3 million that people, probably well-meaning progressives who believed in his mission, sent to this PAC thinking it was going to change politics. Now, how much went to the candidates? Take a guess. Go ahead, in your head. Guess. $455,000. That's it. Out of $15.3 million raised. Only $455,000 went to backing candidates. And get this, they only backed 3 candidates total. 3. Want to know how those candidates did? 2 of them lost. Badly. One lost by 39 points. The other lost by 45 points. The only winner was Zohran Mamdani in New York City. You know, the socialist who thinks there's a genocide in Gaza. And he raised millions elsewhere. He didn't need Hogg's money. So, where did the money go? Not seeing much media attention on this. Well, we can account for about $5 million. $2.5 million to political consultants. $1.1 million on digital ads for the PAC itself, not the candidates. $965,000 on building donor mailing lists. And my personal favorite, $5,000 on ClassPass. Yeah, ClassPass, the fitness class subscription service for employee wellness. Oh, and they've got about $1.6 million sitting in the bank. So, together, let's do the math. They raised $15.3 million. They spent about $5 million that we can account for. They have $1.6 million in the bank. That leaves about $8 to $10 million unaccounted for. Where is it? Where did it go? Now, I'm sure there are other expenses buried in there somewhere, but here's what kills me. David Hogg has spent the last few years lecturing Democrats about how they listen to the consulting class instead of the working class. Those are his words. He said Democrats surround themselves with people who agree with them instead of talking to real people on the ground. And what does he do? He burns through millions of dollars enriching consultants while his candidates lose by 40-point margins. This is the progressive grift in a nutshell. Big promises, emotional appeals. We're going to change everything. And then they just pocket the money? Or waste it? Or give it to their friends in consulting firms? And the media. They loved David Hogg when he was attacking Republicans. Now that he's exposed as a fraud running as a failed PAC, crickets. You're not hearing about this on CNN or MSNBC, are you? The kid went from Parkland to the swamp in record time. He learned how Washington really works. You don't actually have to do anything. You just have to say the right things, raise a bunch of money, and make sure your consultant friends get paid. It's disgusting, and it's exactly why people don't trust politicians or activists anymore.
1.
All right, story 3. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. This guy is a piece of work. He signed an executive order Monday creating ice-free zones across Chicago. What does that mean? It means federal immigration agents are supposedly banned from using city property. Schools, libraries, parks, parking lots, all off limits to ICE according to Johnson's order. He's even going to put up signs that say, "This property is owned by the city of Chicago. It may not be used for civil immigration enforcement." He says ICE agents are rogue, reckless, heavily armed masked individuals who are not accountable to the people of Chicago. Now, Johnson's doing this because Trump just deployed National Guard troops to Chicago, 300 from Illinois, 400 from Texas, to protect ICE facilities after federal agents were literally attacked by protesters over the weekend. Agents were rammed by vehicles, boxed in by cars, and Chicago police were told to stand down and not help them. So, Johnson's response is to ban ICE from city property. He's going full resistance mode. Here's the problem. It's completely illegal. It won't work, and Brandon Johnson could actually go to prison for this. Let me explain why. First, there's something called the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution. Article 6 says federal law is the supreme law of the land. That means when federal law conflicts with state or local law, federal law wins. Always. Cities can choose not to help ICE. That's legal. But they cannot obstruct ICE. They can't actively interfere with federal immigration enforcement. And that's exactly what Johnson is doing. Second, there's a specific federal law, 8 U.S. Code Section 1324. That makes it a crime to harbor or conceal illegal aliens from federal authorities. Mayors and governors can be criminally prosecuted under this statute. And here's the kicker. They don't have the sovereign immunity. You can't hide behind, "I'm a mayor," when you're breaking federal law. Third, there's another federal law, Section 1373, that specifically prohibits local governments from restricting the sharing of immigration information with federal authorities. Chicago's already violating this one with their sanctuary city policies. Fourth, Trump's Department of Justice already sued Illinois and Chicago back in February over their sanctuary policies, arguing they violate the Supremacy Clause. That case is ongoing. And fifth, this just happened yesterday. A federal judge rejected Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's attempt to block Trump's National Guard deployment. The judge said, basically, nope, the feds can send troops. Illinois lost in court. So, Brandon Johnson can put up all the signs he wants. He can pass all the executive orders he wants. But federal agents don't answer to city mayors. They operate under federal authority. They don't need his permission or his parking lots. This is a political theater. Johnson knows this won't work. He's doing it to score points with his progressive base and make himself look like a hero standing up to Trump. But here's what's really happening in Chicago while Johnson's playing resistance hero. Over 1,500 people have been shot this year in his city. Over 1,500 shooting victims. That's more than 4 people shot every single day. Maybe, instead of protecting illegal alien criminals from ICE, Brandon Johnson should focus on protecting his own citizens from the criminals already there. Just a thought. So, there you have it. 3 stories, 3 examples of how broken our system is. The FBI spying on Republican senators, a progressive activist running a multi-million-dollar grift, and a big city mayor defying federal law to protect illegal aliens while his city burns. This is what we're up against, folks. This is why we can't let up. This is why every single election matters. Every single appointment matters. Every single fight matters. The good news, we're fighting back now. Kash Patel is cleaning house at the FBI. People are exposing the David Hogg grift. And federal courts are slapping down these sanctuary city stunts. But we've got to stay on it, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay pissed off. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and or follow this podcast. It really does help me out. This is O'Connor's Quick Strike. I'm John O'Connor, and I'll be back Friday with 3 more stories they don't want you knowing about. Until then, keep fighting, Patriots.